Hello and welcome everyone for another episode here at CIO Talk with Riaz. This is Riaz Yusuf. I'm a Chief Information Officer and your host. I am excited to have with us today Jeff Chien, who's a Vice President of Data and AI for CompQSoft. Welcome, Jeff. Thank you for joining us today. How are you doing?
Great, thank you, and thank you for having me.
Wonderful. Could you please introduce yourself for the benefit of my audience, Jeff?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So I was genetically bred. My mother was a computer programmer, and my father was a Pulitzer Prize winning, Peabody winning investigative journalist. So at an early age, I was blending data with insights, and it's progressed with this natural curiosity, which brings us to where I am today, starting out doing practical hands-on AI work for the federal government national security interests, essentially helping them find bad guys. And then a decade ago, I switched over to the private sector where it turns out finding bad guys, finding new customer opportunities, finding improvements in healthcare, and finding insurance risks are all the same thing. They all require a high level of insight so that you can answer the who, what, when, where, how, and why of any question you want to ask of the data.
Okay, wonderful. That's a great background, Jeff. Yeah, you are right. I mean, we are always chasing something, right? Whether it's bad actors or revenue or optimization, there is always something irrespective of whichever sector you are in. So since you have a lot of experience in AI and you are also currently a vice president for data and AI, let's talk about AI, which appears to be the topic of the conversation almost everywhere. So tell me about the ways that you have, at a high level is fine, are the ways that you have used AI in your past job. It sounds like in federal, they have been using AI for a while. Although AI is getting popular now, correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like federal government is using AI for a while now.
Yes.
Okay, so in what ways have you utilized, you don't have to get into the details, at a high level, in what ways AI has been used in the organizations that you have been part of in the past?
So I'll start by breaking AI up into three categories. Okay. The first category of AI is to create and generate. So you think of generative AI, ChatGPT, large language models, chatbots. The second one is using AI to automate self-driving cars, robotic process automation for business process workflow. And then the third one is for insights. That's the who, what, when, where, and how, and why, so I can make a more informed business decision. So I've done this in the past. First commercial implementation was for the 2009 stimulus, where I used AI to identify $700 billion in missed cost transparency for the federal government. And I was able to get that done in 3 months. And that was the big difference between what I was doing and all, when you're talking about $800 billion, there is no price tag that they won't pay to get it done. All the other options they were looking at, which they signed up for, it would have taken them 3 years. So that I said to myself, so that invoked this act of Congress called in 2014 called the Data Transparency Act. The Data Transparency Act, which was the first one, stated that, hey, this is the way the federal government should be doing all their business. And and that's where I then started down the private sector road. So I look for the biggest, messiest, dirtiest, least transparent places I could find uh, in the industries for problems to solve, and I landed on healthcare and insurance. And in healthcare, I took Cancer Treatment Centers of America to #1 in the nation in clinical quality. And then at Gallagher Bassett, I took their them from an improvement, 600% improvement in risk identification, and we moved that risk identification not only by 600%, but in real time, so they could prevent the risk. And the current process was 3 to 5 years. So that was a big um, tipping point for me. And from there, all kinds of things can be done and problems can be solved when you understand the prescriptive analytics, which is the how and why.
I see. So the couple of examples you shared on the insurance side, on the federal side with the stimulus identification.
Mhm.
Um, so did you use the automation part of AI? Because the three categories that you mentioned,
Yeah,
automation is one of them. So did you use automation or did you use any other
yes, I
categories?
used all three of them combined working together. So I used generative AI to generate the models. I use RPAs to batch and work the loads, and I use prescriptive analytics to identify um, the most actionable insights. So the, the challenge is that so we're essentially delivering CompQSoft. We're delivering the future of how all AI is going to be utilized. And now I say that, and there might be some skepticism around that. So it's backed up by dozens of use cases, but the fundamental logic of it makes sense. So we have a data journey that we've all been trained and learned on how to go through, and that's you go out, you identify your data sources, you collect them, you store them in a repository, you clean them, then you normalize them, then you denormalize them, then you send it over to the analytics team. They prep that data, and then they prep it, and then they run analysis on it, and then you get your descriptive analytics. Then, okay, so that tells you, let's just call it the who, when, and where. Then you want to try and use some machine learning to get a prediction, and that's the what. And then after you get through those hurdles, then you go to the prescriptive, which answers the how and why. Why aren't my customers buying? How do I get them to buy?
Okay, so each of these steps, are they, is there a pause between these steps or do they all automatically happen such that you only see the end result?
So what we do um, that so we don't follow the traditional data journey. We go straight to how and why. So once you answer how and why, you first of all know why aren't your customers buying? How do you get them to buy? Then your machine learning predictive analytics has the causal inferences it needs to be successful. So I'll give you the example of Magellan Healthcare. They spent a year and a half data modeling, uh, all the prior authorizations for healthcare records coming in system claims. And they found 28 million patterns in the data. Okay, well, that wasn't helpful. So what I did in 40 days is I got the causal inferences, which are clinicians are gaming the system because they wanted to get their medical procedures approved, and that that only took 40 days. So you have the how and why, and that was $180 million a month with the prior authorizations of the clinicians gaming the system that were getting prior authorized approved, what they shouldn't have been, and and now we can go on in solving that problem, which is not the clinician's fault. It's their fault because it takes them anywhere from 7 hours to 4 days to get their X-ray approved. That's the problem. So so that's how you use it backwards, and then of course that backs up the reporting, and that's how we came up with $180 million.
Yeah, so you basically cut down the delays and then improve the efficiency overall.
Correct. And so we take the data journey backwards. So you have, raw data that we talked about, and I'll try and do it up. What you look at a data journey on Google, and they all look similar, right? And they all start out there, and of course, no surprise, most of the clients are struggling just with dirty data and unstructured data, which keeps them pinned down at the bottom where they don't even have self-service BI. Okay, well, that can't be solved until you figure out exactly why you want to improve something and how to improve it. Then you can forecast accurately what it's going to improve. Then you can only work with the actual data that matters, which is about 1,000 times less data to have to manage and curate than the traditional methodology, which we just proved out for Google, which was essentially download the internet and tell me why my customers aren't buying Google and how do I get them to buy Google.
Okay, so how does your how and why approach compare to the traditional approach? What is the traditional approach? Could you define that?
The traditional approach is everyone's in silos. You go to the data engineers, they bring in the data, they set up a repository, a data lake, a data in the cloud, whatever the case might be. You go through the governance process, you manage that data, and you start the normalization process to make sure it fits in the nice little neat rows. But if you think about it like an investigation, that works great for data governance. All our data is in nice little neat rows. We know, like a warehouse, we want everything, and we don't want a big pile, okay? And then so they normalize it, and then they kick it over to the analysts saying your data is ready. And then the analysts go, hey, we're analysts, we're doing an investigation, and you're just telling me you moved the evidence, you changed the evidence, and now I'm supposed to work with this data. It won't answer the questions I want it to answer. He essentially stripped out the context. So they get stuck in that standpoint. So that's just descriptive. Now, then there's the guys that are trying to use machine learning with limited success, and they're all siloed. So then you got a data science team doing the machine learning, and then there are no prescriptive analytics platforms available online. Certainly do a search on your favorite search engine to find that out. That's where it sits today. So none of these teams can work together. So what happens when you can get them all to work together so you can combine them? Well, then you have synergy. Then you have everyone on the same page, and guess what? It's 500% faster and less cost. So that's going to become valuable, not this year, but next year, as budgets tighten and companies need to get more done with less people. That's going to be really important.
Okay, wonderful. That sounds like a great approach. Let's talk about the logistics of building an AI solution. So let's say a company wants to implement AI to improve something, right? So do they have to go ahead and hire AI developers? If so, what skill sets are they looking for? So how do they go about building an AI solution in-house?
Yeah, so my recommendation, and they don't have to use us, they can use whoever they want, is to go out and get some experts. Now, these experts it's going to be hard to find experts that know the difference between all the various things just because it takes so long to do things. But AI advisory is the best place to start. And from there, you can build conceptually what you want to do. For us, we don't say, hey, tell us what you want AI to do. For us, we just simply say, what do you want to improve? And then we'll figure out all the AI behind the scenes, because chances are they don't know what AI they should use. They don't have the skill sets in-house to use them, and they don't know what order necessarily to use the different AI. So that's the recommendation. So I'll give you an example of Enersys, $4 billion company that supplies all of our batteries for our cars and data centers and things like that. Largest purchaser of lead. Okay, so they were struggling with their processes, and so they implemented RPA. So the RPA, it automated bad processes, and so you need a very specific type of AI, which is knowledge graphing. So you need that skill, and then you need a very specific type of knowledge graphing, which is contextual knowledge graphing, to be able to solve what exactly in the process is broken, what needs to be fixed, what's the highest priority, and what's the easiest thing to do. And then you can really show value in it. We took $1 million expense of what it costs to utilize RPA, which is $1 million a year, to bringing $17 million in value, just solving one problem, which is automation of the inventory monitoring system. So
sounds great. So just for the benefit of clarification for the audience, so RPA is the robotic process automation, right?
yes, that's correct.
And you also mentioned knowledge graphing. Could you speak more about it? What is knowledge graphing? How does it work?
So knowledge graphing is connecting data elements together. If you think of going back to investigators, how they have the board with the little Post-it notes and the poke pictures and the evidence and the strings, connecting all the dots to try and find the culprit or the main problem, that's knowledge graphing. So we've taken that visual and then moved it to paper, from paper to digital format. And guess what? Computer's great at connecting all the dots much faster and much more detailed than a human. And then the contextual component, which is a different skill set than the knowledge component, is what's the quantity, what's the gravity, and that should be part of the advisor. So we're short on skill sets, and it's going to be a growing problem as our demography shrinks. So we need to rely on AI to help us navigate these situations so that their companies can be successful in whatever they want to do.
Absolutely, that's great. So is your company, CompQSoft, an AI advising company? What kind of?
Yes. So we're a turnkey end-to-end solution provider. Most people haven't heard of us because we do all of our business historically has been working with the federal government. So defense and Department of Energy, you name it, we probably have a dozen people in there working those situations. And what we see, what CompQSoft sees, is that, hey, same thing as my progression. I moved from the government because they had the biggest problems and the biggest budgets. And then I moved over to the private sector, who now have big problems and not necessarily the big budgets. So let's take all the stuff the government's learned and apply it to provide AI optimally, instead of having it as a promise at the end of your data journey that we don't recommend you pay for that. That would take too long and it's too expensive.
Absolutely. That's great. So when I think of the application of AI at a high level, I think of it in two ways that companies can utilize AI. One is the simplest and easiest. Companies can leverage the AI capabilities that the vendor products are coming up with. Nowadays, almost every vendor is utilizing AI in some form or fashion or shape. So we can simply make a decision in regards to whether or not we want to utilize those capabilities. The other option is to go ahead and build an AI solution in-house. So I would like to take your opinion and thoughts on building an AI solution in-house. If a company decides to build an AI solution, be it for automation or be it for looking at insights, getting some insights, uh, how would you recommend that company to go about building that in-house AI solution? You already mentioned it's best to hire experts such as AI advisory. So what next? So we hire an expert, get their opinion. I'm assuming they probably lay out a roadmap for the company. This is what you should do. These are the things you should do, and this is the expected outcome, and so on and so forth. Then what next? Should we go ahead and hire a bunch of developers that have a specific skill set, or what comes next?
Yes. So, assuming you take the advisory step first, and not only will you get, at least for us, I can't speak of the other advisors out there. So, not only are you going to get, what you should do, the type of skill sets you need to do it, what are the capabilities. For us, we also have having the demonstratability of 20 years. We can tell you exactly how much it costs and how long it takes. And that's a big advantage. And there's multiple articles being socialized right now due to the craze of generative AI and ChatGPT and things like that. It's got a 3% chance of our positive ROI, which isn't great. AI for analytics and RPAs and everything else has a 10% success rate. So it's expensive and complicated. So the chances of success really dictate on who you're bringing in from an advisory standpoint and how they must be able to prove that they know what they're talking about. And that's just their demonstration. Who have you done it for? How much did it cost? How long did it take? If they can't answer that, then they have never done it before.
I see. So in essence, what you're saying is leverage the company that is providing the advice to also build the solution. That is the best approach. That's what I'm hearing.
Correct. So when I go out and I do my advisory, our team will give you, this is exactly how much it costs, and this is how long it'll take, and this is the outcomes you'll get. Feel free to shop around. Go take it to, whoever, you think you want to take it to. There's plenty of places to go. There's about 8,000 AI technology companies offering various goods, and feel free to shop that around. So then you'll know what the cost is, and to save approximately 500% on what it costs and how long it takes that's going to show up in the quotes that you're going to get from our team and versus other people.
Got it. Wonderful, wonderful. Based on your experience, Jeff, in talking to various clients of yours throughout your career, what do you think some of the best ways of using AI for a typical company? What do you think some of the low-hanging fruits that an AI can be used to improve whatever they are trying to improve?
It all comes down to decision making, and that means insights. So whether you want to use the latest and greatest in generative AI to create content for sales or use an RPA to help improve business process, all that comes with better knowledge and better insight on your business. What are your customers saying? What are your employees saying? Being able to distill all that, those, we'll call it actionable insights, but to be specific, we're talking about those prescriptive insights, um, are the most valuable place to go, that we've found. Um, and that's why we're always recommending that's the first place to go.
Got it. Will you be able to give an example of what kind of insight an AI could help
Sure.
arrive at?
Yeah, I can give you, I'll just give you a couple. We'll do three. So we get an insight from a hospital, Eskenazi Hospital, suffering, brand new hospital. Go look it up online. It's just a beautiful building. 25% of the building is not usable for healthcare, but beautiful building, terrible quality scores. What? Why are they getting terrible quality scores with a brand new state-of-the-art hospital? Well, the reason why is because they're waxing their floors too much. So they're waxing their floors too much. What does that have to do with healthcare? Well, it was making the floors squeaky, and the squeaky floors were keeping the patients up at night, so they couldn't get sleep and couldn't recover. So I'll give you another example. Thermos, it produced this product and it wasn't selling very well. Well, the reason why it wasn't selling very well is because someone was counterfeiting their product that they didn't even know. They had counterfeiters, and their colors were better. So knowing those kind of things are very helpful. Our Caterpillar has this will be the third one. Caterpillar ships their trucks on a truck, right? And they only could fit one of their like bulldozers on the truck. So shipping's expensive to ship a bulldozer. So one of their resellers was taking the bucket off the front of the truck and getting two bulldozers on that truck. And so they were able to double cut their shipping costs in half because they only get two.
Wow. Okay. Wow. All that adds to the revenue.
Yeah.
So,
And I'll give you one last one.
okay, great.
So AT&T, they're rolling out their Wi-Fi to high-end homes and users, and they lay their fiber based on who's got the biggest pocketbooks, and they were just getting hammered because people kept on calling in saying their Wi-Fi doesn't work. So it turned out that if they had a saltwater fish tank within 20 feet of the Wi-Fi router, the motors and the salt would break the Wi-Fi, or not. It won't be able to effectively communicate. So truck after truck after truck would go out, and then instead of, hey, do you have a saltwater fish tank? Oh, okay, that's the problem. So those are actionable insights that are prescriptive in nature that you want to get the root of first before you go down and spend a lot of money.
Wonderful. Those are amazing, wonderful examples. Thank you for sharing all those 4 examples.
Sure.
So how do you, let's take the example of the squeaky floor on a hospital,
Mhm.
right? So how do you go about arriving at that insight? So to collect the data, would you survey the patients or the staff, or how do you go about collecting the data, which is the first step, I believe?
Yeah, the first step is collecting the data. Um, Identifiably, we all have data sources. We have digital fingerprints all over the place via social media, or reviews of products and things like that. And so in those cases, we take that into account. The fundamental key is you got to look at everything. Because if you don't look at everything, you don't know when to stop, and you don't know if you're missing anything. So there's a tremendous advantage of looking at everything. Now, most of the data out there, when you talk to data engineers and data scientists, what they call data is something called structured data. Okay, that's only 10%. The other 90% of the data out there, they don't consider data because it's unstructured. It's basically a pile of words and numbers, and nobody has time to clean and model that. So we look at all the unstructured data, and that's where we get the majority of our insights. Because logically speaking, data's the whole idea is to be well informed to make better decisions, right? Okay. Well, what's more informative, data or information? Information is more informative than data because information is context. Okay. Well, that's all unstructured. So that we usually hit that first, and that's sitting in their CRMs, it's in their call reports, in their surveys, customers are calling in, complaining, and all that stuff is all there. And then that actual insight about that floor wax, that came from one person, and that was the janitor, which said he was very proud of how often he waxed the floors, and then it also came from an employee, and also came from a patient that said, patients after patient after patient that said, "Hey, I can't get any sleep here. It's always squeaky, squeak, squeak, squeak every time I try to go to bed." So you just got to put that one actual insight. That's why you have to look at everything, because it could just be one person stating something that is the smoking gun to solving the problem.
Wonderful. So in this case, you're not looking for a trend or a volume. You are just looking for that insight. It could be hidden in just one comment or one survey result somewhere.
Yeah.
So how does AI find that? So the traditional approach would have failed in identifying something like this. So how
Correct.
does AI know to spot this particular problem to be the root cause of the issue?
Well, you need contextualization. So you need deep learning stacked with natural language understanding, stacked with the, if need be, if it's complex, the contextual knowledge joins.
Got it. Okay. Those are very interesting examples. And yeah, I think is the best route to resolve or identify the issues in these cases. So you mentioned about several success stories, examples, just great. Do you have any failure stories utilizing AI?
Yes, I have 10 years worth. So every time I go in and solve a problem, without the socialization of AI being something I want and need, people don't understand that is being an acceptable thing. They don't know that they want it because it doesn't exist. So, and I don't have the marketing budget to go out and do all this marketing and promos and spend $1 billion on a Super Bowl ad to identify that. So now things are different. 20 years of experience doing something that nobody cared about, and now it's the most important thing at any C-suite's agenda is to get that AI functionality so that they can retain the knowledge of the workforce that's exiting, and propel them into the knowledge era, which we're supposed to be in right now.
So in other words, you're saying the key challenge in using or implementing AI is convincing people, especially the leadership, to fund for an AI solution.
Right.
Did I get that right? Okay.
Yes. And then when you look at who they go to for their, we're agnostic as a vendor. So whoever they go to for their data repositories, their cloud, we work with all of them, all of them, who they want for their visualization, who they want for their CRM, the ERP. It doesn't matter to us. But they're not going to promote the notion of, knowledge is power, because knowledge is a data source. So what I'm articulating through mind mapping, which is another functionality of augmented intelligence, yeah, that's a real thing. So when I go out and mind map, I'm using knowledge as a source, and they don't really want to necessarily give up their gravy train of let me take you down the long, expensive route. So,
Well said. Knowledge is the data source. I love it.
yeah.
Okay. What do you think in regards to the impact of AI in cybersecurity in the near future?
Yeah, well, it's going to be huge. As you know, I came from the security background, and I read somewhere statistically 80% of all companies have been hacked, which is crazy. I mean, these are official. You know, and as I looked through fraud for insurance and things like this, these are well-funded, well-organized companies going after these illicit acts, not like some dark guy in the closet with a computer doing it. Right? These are businesses. So yeah, it's going to be becoming bigger, faster, and harder, um, unless you got your arms around the fundamentals. And security's always top of mind for that. And when you look at that, so data integrity and data access, I'm not using a warehouse. I'm not taking data in and storing it. So in healthcare, that's literally impossible to do it, and that's what's made it so hard to collaborate. So instead of doing that, and I'll point to AbbVie, which is a local company, you know, one of their analysts said, well, why can't we just leave that data where it's at and we'll just look at it and we'll just look at what we need and, you know, not move it. That's exactly what you can do.
Okay. Yeah, because people are concerned about moving data around, which is a valid concern, right? So you don't have to move the data in order to
Correct.
use the.
So for the Google effort, which is download the internet and tell me tell me what I want to know, uh, and only collect the actionable data, that was a thousand times less data than we originally started with. Because downloading the internet does not sound like an inexpensive proposition, and you know that's the only way you can kind of get this stuff done. So I'll call it data pointing. I don't really. There's no term for it. There's no one out there really kind of doing that, but that's what robots could do.
So the combination of RPA, robotic process automation,
Mhm.
and AI is going to be very powerful. Is that a right
Correct.
statement?
Yes. So you can go from like the Enersys example, and I've got others. You can go from you know, $1 million in expense to $17 million in value, just by making sure that RPA is built and going after and automating the right things. So any sort of AI, think of it as they can solve the mundane things. 1, 0, yes, no, true, false. That they're great at that. So when they go and say go read stuff, they can read 28 million books in 1 minute. Okay, and that's with the standard laptop. Okay, okay, so we got that. Um, the problem is that we're three-dimensional thinkers, uh, and it's not yes, no. It's yes, no, maybe. Yes, no, sometimes. Yes, no, I don't know. And that's where the RPA gets stuck when it's doing an automation process. Oh, I'm going to take this file, I'm going to add these words to it, and I'm going to move it over here. Okay, well, you're adding the wrong words because this says voided contract, and you're just duplicating voided contracts, and you can't tell the difference. So that's why you need these AI optimization capabilities to automate and then of course to articulate the value. So that's where insights are important for RPA specifically. And,
Wonderful.
and chatbots and LLMs and generative AI, same situation. You know, we can't download every single dictionary in the word and put those words together to make sentences to have the robot figure out what is the best sentence. and where did you get that notion from? So they can generate an answer to a question. That's what everyone likes about it. Of course, they're not going to like the fact that that the answer is fabricated. There's no truth to it. There's no source. There's no logic. So if you want to train an LLM to be a better chatbot, well, what are the questions that everyone's asking? Well, I don't know. Well, let's go find out. So we'll download every single question that's being asked, like AT&T, 10 years ago. Download every question that's being asked, download what the solutions are, and then you'll find out, yeah, you don't put a saltwater fish tank next to your router.
Great, wonderful. What do you think is going to be the future of AI, Jeff?
The future of AI it's going to be all this dirty Monday from a data scientist perspective, all this coding and cleaning and data poking, all that stuff's going to be automated and behind us. Because if you can't get past that and use AI with AI to solve the business problem, then you're just not going to make it. So that's what the future is going to be, and that means, and unfortunately for companies that are taking off as we roll into next year and start to see recessionary pressures increase, and they want to lay off people to improve productivity, they're going to be laying off the most valuable part of that employee, which is their knowledge. So yeah, that janitor at El Camino Eskenazi Hospital, that guy produced $120 million worth of clinical quality value for that hospital by not waxing the floor. That they would never have known that if that janitor wasn't so excited about waxing the floor so much. But that's what they told him to do. Hey, I want this thing looking shiny all day, nonstop, 24/7.
He did what he was asked for, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's where the future. That's why I'm really excited for it, and it'll prove itself out organically.
Sure, I'm sure. As companies are allowing their employees to use generative AI such as ChatGPT, what kind of policies do you recommend for companies to think about in terms of allowing their employees to continue using AI?
Yeah. So first of all, generative AI is the hot topic. Okay, and I have a list of top 30 challenges for people utilizing AI, and it's on the list. Now remember, it's used to create. It's used to generate.
Yep.
Okay, so we're generating made up answers to questions, or we're generating content. Okay, so what made up questions answers to questions, well, that's insights. That's what analytics are for. They're evidence-based data insights. So there's a misnomer of what the generative AI represents, which is non-technical subject matter expertise asking questions of the data versus what it does. So usually people ask for generative AI and I go tell them, okay, starts at $100 million and works its way up from there. Do you still want to talk about this? And sometimes I get a yes, sometimes I get a no. Usually it's a no, but then we start talking about what you really want. And answering questions solves problems. So you want to generate, including generating problems, or do you want to solve? And they usually want to solve. And then when they want to solve, then they want to automate. So solve, automate, or generate. That's the order.
Okay, so that goes back to your initial point about focus on how and why.
Mm-hmm.
Doing the what in the beginning.
Yeah, yes, that's correct.
Jeff, what business book would you recommend for my audience?
So I recommend something that, and I don't even know the exact name. I can look it up. It's How's Your Ship sailing. And the reason why I recommend this book, it's a book about collaboration. Um, and it's a story written by an admiral in the Navy that took the worst performing ship and turned it into the best performing ship. So how do you do that? Well, you empower your people, and and that's how you do it. That's been the fundamental book for me, because that's what I do with the data. I empower the subject matter expert to use the data, just like what ChatGPT and all the generative AI platforms are doing today.
Wonderful. I will find and include a link to that book.
Okay.
And where can people find you, Jeff?
You can find me at jeff.chien@CompQSoft.com or on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn tag is Actionable Insights.
Wonderful. Awesome. Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you, Jeff. I learned quite a few things in relation to AI and its usefulness around solving problems, getting insights, and automation and stuff. Thanks for sharing those insights, and thanks for being with us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.